Okay. Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Alejandro Jiménez. I am the head of business development in Acciona Infrastructures. Acciona, for those of you who doesn't know the company, is an international conglomerate specialized on renewable energy, civil construction, and water. Well, first of all, I would like to thank Fundación, Innovación, Bankinter for inviting me to participate in this event. When Marce and Ruth kindly offered me to deliver a speech here, they kindly suggested, okay, perhaps you can talk about how to make desalination more sustainable. And my immediate reaction was, well, I mean, happy to do so, but okay. I already consider that desalination is fully sustainable. And I hope using these brief 10 minutes, I can convince at least some of you of this statement. I consider it is sustainable, especially considering the alternatives, you know? I mean, alternatives to desalination is taking water from the environment, either surface water or groundwater. Groundwater, it is calculated that 70% of the extracted groundwater, it is done at higher rates than the replacement rates of the aquifer. So we are extracting, on a general basis, groundwater on an unsustainable way, making water levels go deeper and deeper, or getting more salt intrusion on our aquifers. Now, there are three main criticisms that are given to desalination. One of them, just my colleague here mentioned it. The first one, it is too expensive. Very few people can afford it, especially agriculture cannot afford it. This is the first one. Second, it is energy intensive, and therefore it produces carbon emissions. This is another typical one. And the third one is, okay, it produces this very nasty, contaminated thing called brine that then is discharged into the ocean. So let me try to address one by one. Okay, on the energy, on the cost, sorry, it is too expensive. I mean, modern large-scale desalination plants are getting to 50 euro cent per cubic meter. So that means, I mean, 20 liters for each cent. I mean, that's actually quite cheap. If we compare this price to the bulk water supply cost of the big cities in most countries is in that range, and actually is feasible for many agricultural forms. Actually, there are many cases in which desalination plants or desalinated water is used for agriculture. And actually, Israel is one example, but also Morocco, also Spain, also, I mean, many countries in the GCC. So it's feasible even for agriculture. Second, I mean, it consumes too much energy and therefore produces carbon emission. Well, the too much energy is something that I would also challenge. I mean, we are coming 30 years ago, the old thermal desalination plants, they were even above 10 kilowatt hours per cubic meter. Now we are in the 3 kilowatt hours per cubic meter. And it is true, we are reaching the limit, so we cannot expect, I mean, it's a thermodynamic thing. I mean, we cannot go much lower than that. But 3 kilowatt hours per cubic meter is already very low. I mean, if we compare, for instance, the energy requirement needed to supply desalinated water to a household of 4 members is similar to the energy requirement of the refrigerator of that household. So I mean, it's something that is reasonable. And by the way, I took this quotation, I believe, from my idea. So, Domingo, you have the copyright of what I have just said. But this is the energy consumption. But then, I mean, desalination plants are electrical factories. We very rarely say that a Tesla car is not sustainable, or a refrigerator, just to use the same example, is not sustainable. Are electrical factories. You can always use renewable energy. And by the way, all the desalination plants that we run in Spain, Acciona, all of them, they run with renewable energy. And the most recent award that we got, which is the one of the biggest desalination plants in the world in Morocco, in Casablanca. This is 822,000 cubic meters per day, is 100% fueled by a wind farm. And the all-in price is below 50 cents. So you can have a very cheap plant, 100% powered by renewable energy. And by the way, this one is mostly for agricultural use. So this is to the energy part, okay? And then we go to the brine. That's another sensitive one. Well, brine, I mean, probably most of us in this room are already knowledgeable about what brine is, but brine is just concentrated seawater, okay? We are not allowed to discharge harmful chemical reagents together with the brine into the ocean. It's just concentrated seawater. You cannot, visually, you cannot differentiate a glass of potable water and a glass of brine. It's completely transparent, you cannot differentiate them. So what we are basically doing is returning into the sea what we took from the sea, okay? It's not that different from the natural water cycle. Natural water cycle, through evaporation, you separate water and you left the salts behind, okay? The salts, they are left in the ocean. So now we are separating potable water and we return the salts into the ocean. So the only thing that we need to be careful about is the local potential harmful effect of the discharge point. But there has been decades of monitoring and testing with the modern desalination plants, with the diffusers that we have, that they can grant a rapid dilution of the brine. It is widely demonstrated, and this is decades of records here in Spain, but also in Australia, when requirements are very, very strict in Australia, and there are decades of monitoring that can demonstrate that there is absolutely no harmful effect if done in a proper way. This brine discharge, meaning choosing the right discharge point and using the right diffusers for the discharge outfalls, okay? So, having said this, if it's not that expensive, if energy requirements doesn't necessarily equates to carbon emission, and if brine is something that you can deal with, then why we don't have more desalination plants is a proper question. And here I would mention two main problems that apply to desalination but to other big infrastructures in our sector. We have, in my opinion, we have a complex sector. You know, our public administration in most countries, because this happens all around, is very fragmented. You know, contrary to what happens in transportation, for instance, or energy, in most countries you have a big, strong agency responsible for policies and for coming up with the budget for the big infrastructures in energy or transportation, for instance. But in water, you have from the government and the ministries down to the municipalities, lot of stakeholders in between, water basins authorities, autonomous authorities, regional, a lot of them having a say on water sector. This is why, I mean, having all these stakeholders, having to, being able to coordinate them, to put forward a big infrastructure, which is a desalination plant, because you need a scale in desalination. So it's complicated. This is problem number one that we have in our sector. And problem number two, and this is something, is the commodity price. I mean, you go to the energy sector or the telecommunication sector, and well, the price is what it has to be. In water, usually the price is, when I say price, I mean the tariff paid by the end customer. Because from the end customer, then everything falls down to pay for everything that is needed to treat the water and deliver to the households or and treating the effluents, okay? So unfortunately, typically these tariffs, they are political prices, okay? It is set by the municipality and not necessarily using the cost recovery principle, which is what should apply, that each and every cost that are required to deliver the water to the tap and to treat the effluents, they should be incorporated in the tariff. When this doesn't happen, the first problem that you have is that water infrastructures, they are not economically feasible unless you rely on public subsidies, because what people are paying for the water, they cannot pay for, it cannot pay for infrastructure. It is the case that the European Union, for instance, here, through the Water Directive, they are encouraging the cost recovery principle when setting the tariffs in municipalities, but still it is not happening in most places. And it's not only Europe. You go all around the world and you have the same problem, that people consider that price is different than other commodities for water, and we live in tariff deficit in most countries. But probably, I mean, this problem that we have in the water sector it leads to a bigger discussion, because it's not only about the feasibility of the infrastructure, it is also the demand side policies. You know, tariff is a fundamental tool for demand side policies. If you subsidize the water, what you are encouraging is wrong behaviors from agriculture, from industries, and from people. Because, I mean, it's an incentive for water-intensive industries to place themselves in water-stressed areas, or for not using the most efficient crops in water-stressed areas. So probably that's one of the first things that we should take care of. So I will leave this here, and happy to take questions then.
Thank you very much. Thanks you both very much.